Okay, we will now be learning Daf Yudches Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, one second. So in the Mishnah, we spoke about that there is the kula, which you have, the leniency which we have, that we are able to make the area around the wells. We're able to make them, make it into Rishus HaYachid, so you'll be able to carry out the water from the well next to the well, so the animals should be able to drink. And the leniency is that you're able to use 2 planks of wood by the corner in an L shape, and between the L shapes there's no mechitza. So you have on all, that's the oisim pasim. Now the Mishnah says oisim pasim lebirois. Birois means a well. Now there is that you can either have a well, which means that it's water which is from the source. A well means that the water is naturally coming up from the ground, or you can have a boir, where you have a bigger pit and the rainwater collects into the boir, and that is that is used to store water there. So the Mishnah says Birois. Birois means a well. So it does not mention that you can make this pasim, this leniency. It doesn't mention this leniency will also be effective for a boir which is filled up with the rainwater. That does not mention that. So we're going to, in the Gemara, we're going to discuss that there is three opinions about what type of well, or what type which is water which comes there naturally from the ground, or what type of boir which is the rainwater. You're able to create this Rishus HaYachid around that with using the kula of just using the pasim. So there's going to be 3 opinions in the Gemara, and the Gemara is going to see whether these 3 opinions fit in the wording of the Mishnah, which just mentions birois and doesn't. So the Gemara says, let's say, that our Mishnah does not agree with Chananya. Tanya, we learn in the Braisa, oisim pasim leboir. That for a boir, we have the leniency. A boir is water comes in, and rainwater gets collected there and stored there in a boir. So you can make the mechitza with pasim, with these L-shaped planks of wood, and that's good enough. When you have a caravan traveling, you can't use a pasim, but we are more strict with the shayara, even though there are kulas which we have by shayara, which we don't have in other situations. But nevertheless, it's still we are more strict with the caravan than with the pasim, which at the end of the day, the pasim, the kula of the pasim was actually to help those oiler regolim, and they need to have water for the animals and so on. So therefore, we're more lenient with the area, making the area around the boir into Rishus HaYachid. So therefore, the pasim, we cannot use the system of pasim for a shayara to make a mechitza around the area where they want to stay for Shabbos. And what we do use is the strings which are within 3 tvachim, one high than the other, which we learned in the previous perik. And there we use the concept of lovud to connect this. Since there's less than 3 tvachim between each one of the strings, is lovud is considered like it's solid. Anyway, so Chananya says, Chavolim leboir avaloi pasim. So Chananya says that even the boir, for the boir of water, you can only use chayav with the chavolim, which use the principle of lavud, but to have such a leniency as making the pasim, that one cannot do to make the area around the bayr into Rishus Yot. So it comes out that Hananya was arguing with the Mishnah, because the Mishnah says you do make a pasim for the water in order to be able to drink the water. So the Gemara says, I feel Hananya. The Mishnah is not the Hananya could agree with the Mishnah. Why? Because Hananya, he's saying that you cannot use a pasim for a bayr, which is water, rainwater, where rainwater is collected. So there, in a Hanami, you cannot use this leniency of pasim according to Hananya. But when it comes to a well, then he will agree that you're able to use this leniency of making these L-shaped by the corners. The reason why to be stricter with a bayr which rainwater is collected than with a well is quite simple, because by a well it's constantly there's always going to be water there. It doesn't run out of water. It's constantly water coming there. Whereas a bayr where water is collected, it might run out, and therefore we're worried by a bayr. There is the worry that that the water will run out, and people will still be considering the area as a reshus hayochid, with the fenced-in areas of reshus hayochid, even though there's no water there, and therefore there's no basis for the kula. So therefore, with a bayr, there is a reason to be more strict than with a well, where there's always be water, and it will always be useful for the purpose of the reason why we're making that people should have water to drink. So, right. Ikad Amri, another way of asking the question from Hananya against the Mishnah is since Hananya, I can't remember if I said it. I can't remember if I said this line anymore, so I'll just repeat it quickly. Even Hananya agrees, but he's saying that when is the passing not permitted by a bird? But by air, he agrees that the passing is permitted, and therefore he can fit in with the Mishnah. Others say the question a different way. Since Hananya does not pass in the air, since it doesn't go into the details, he said you have to use chavalin for a bayr. You can't use a pasim for a bayr, but for a bayr, you can use pasim, since it doesn't mention that detail that you're allowed to use pasim for a bayr michlal. So we can understand that there is no heter, because if there is a heter to use a pasim for a bayr, he should have said that. So even though he mentions the word Be'er, but it's the same for Be'er. Otherwise, he would have specified and said that Be'er, we have this leniency that you can use pasim, because it's right. If you have an extra leniency, you should specify it, because you can't assume leniencies. So the fact it doesn't specify the leniency, it would seem that there is no leniency at all for using the pasim. So the Gemara says, that means that that's the case. Since we are justified in understanding that Hananya holds, we justified in understanding that Hananya's opinion is that even by a be'er, we are not permitted to use the pasim. So lim must nissan like Hananya. So our Mishnah, even though our Mishnah speaks about the be'er, it obviously disagrees with Hananya. So the Gemara says, I feel a tema Hananya, the MS, the Mishnah is Hananya. The minded Komar Tanakama Komahadrele. Right. That Hananya does not need to specify, even though normally if you would be saying a certain halacha, and there's certain kulas to be had, certain leniency to be had, you should specify it. But Hananya, he wasn't giving the share, so to speak. He was just responding to the Tanakama. The Tanakama said the halacha, so and he spoke about Bayer, so he disagreed with him, and it didn't need to specify a certain other leniency, because it was just a response to what somebody else said, and so therefore Hananya, when he says Bayer you cannot use the pasin, so it's only a boir, and therefore it's very reasonable to say that Hananya agrees with the Mishnah that for a be'er, a well, you can use this leniency of pasin. So anyway, from this we see quite clearly that when the Mishnah says birois, it's sort of it's referring to a well, but we're still to a well and not to a boir, but we still need to discuss a bit more in the Gemara. So the Gemara says, "Lema mas nisan the like Rabbi Kiva." Let's say the Mishnah is not like Rabbi Kiva, especially based on what we've just now learned. This now because we learned echad be'er harabim u'beir harabim, both a well which is used by the public and a boir for a boir pit for collecting water, which is used by the rabbim. So in both of them, you're allowed to make the pasim or beir hayochid, and also a well which is from a yochid is oisin lehem pasim. So you can make pasim. Avol beir hayochid, if it's a pit for rainwater, and it belongs to a single person, so then it's not sufficient to make pasim. If you wanted to make it the area around it, you should be able to drink the water on Shabbos. You have to make a mechitza high 10 tvachim, a proper mechitza. That's what Rabbi Kiva says. And the difference between a boir and why by a boir we are machmir, because maybe it will run out of water and people will still continue carrying there. So that's why we need to make a proper mechitza there. We can't be lenient. And the reason why we are lenient by a boir harabim, and we do that, the Rabbi Kiva is lenient by boir harabim, is because by boir harabim, since it's the public over there, so they will remind whoever, if they see something carrying, they'll remind them not to carry. You're not allowed to carry. There's no water there now, so therefore you're not allowed to carry. So therefore the chash of carrying when there's no water in the boir does not exist by a boir harabim, and that's why Rabbi Kiva is making over there. But Cholofen, so it seems that the Mishnah, this Rabbi Kiva disagrees with the Mishnah, because it says make it passing the birois. Birois is the wells, so all boyers seem to be excluded from the Mishnah's leniency. That it seems from the Mishnah that any boyer, you would not be able to use this leniency. Only a well can use this leniency. Whereas Rabbi Kiva says boyer shel rabbim, you can use this leniency of passing. The our Mishnah says birois means only a wells and not boyers. So the Gemara answers, I feel a temer Rabbi Kiva. You can even say Rabbi Kiva. You can even say Rabbi Kiva. And when it says, even though the Mishnah says birois, even though the Mishnah speaks about wells, if the Mishnah agrees that a boyer shel rabbim, you can use a pasim as well. The Gemara is going to explain why the Mishnah doesn't mention the boyer. So I feel the term Rabbi Kiva. Be'er ma'im chayim, by a bear, the psikale, that it's clear cut, and there's no. You can always a bear ma'im well, which whether it's a rabbi yochid, you can always use a leniency of a pasim. The particular lotion that I've the yochid. So Kotani, it's he mentions, he speaks, so he mentions in the Mishnah. He mentions Allah. But a pit where I've gathered water, the loy psikale, which is, it's not clear cut. Sometimes you can use it, sometimes you can't use it. If it's a rabbim, you can use a leniency of passing. If it's a yochid, you cannot use it. It's a loy katani, the Mishnah doesn't mention. In other words, the Gemara is answering that we can learn pshat in our Mishnah like Rabbi Kiva as well. In other words, you can have, there's a few, the statement of our Mishnah will fit in with a few opinions, with the Rabbi Kiva's opinion, also with the opinion later, which we'll learn of Rabbi Huda ben Bava. They can all fit into our Mishnah. It'll be that the nusach of our Mishnah is agreeable with everybody, because and the reason how it fits in Rabbi Kiva is, even though boyers are Beres, the rabbim, you're permitted to make this Beres rabbim, you're permitted to make this leniency of pasim. The Mishnah nevertheless has a good reason why it doesn't mention it, because it doesn't want to go into complications, just wants to give a clear-cut thing, and therefore he mentions birois and leaves out things which are more complicated. Gemara says, let's say like let's say that the Mishnah is not like Rabbi Huda ben Nissan. We learned that you don't make pasim only the be'er rabbi. So if the be'er belongs to a yochid, to an individual, the chacham will not make it. It's only for public be'eris, this kula which was given. So because it serves the public is going to benefit from it. So therefore they made this kula then. The ilohacha, and in our Mishnah, the ketoni lebirois. Birois means all types of wells. Birois in the Loshen Rabbim. It's the Birois Loshen Rabbim in the plural. So and it's a mashmet Loshen the Rabbim Loshen the Yochid. Whether it's a private or it's a public well, you can always make a bear. So this seems to argue against Rabbi Huda ben Bava. So the Gemara says, I feel it. You can say Rabbi Huda ben Bava. He'll also agree with our Mishnah. It might be birois, because the loshen birois, it's when it uses loshen the plural. We're not talking about all different types of birois. We're talking many birois the alma, because there's many birois which belong to the public, and there's a number of them. Therefore, we use the plural, but it doesn't mean that it includes all different types of birois. In other words, so the Mishnah can go the Mishnah will fit in both Rabbi Huda ben Bava and both Rabbi Kiva. Both will agree with the Mishnah, even though they argue between themselves. My jumdin, what's this jumdin? What the name we call this corner, the two planks at the corner, we call them diumdin. What's diumdin? Amr Blazer, diu amudin, two amudin. So the word diu means two. Now the Gemara is going to give a whole list of things. A whole list. Bring a few other examples where the Mishnah uses lashon diu for two. Tanan Hasam will let the Mishnah kol hashisin peturin. That all the shisin that's banned figs, which is very poor quality figs. So the peturim, that means you don't that if you buy them from an Am Haaretz, you don't have to give meiser again. We mentioned I think the earlier share that there is a din of demai that we worry that Am Haaretz did not give meiser, and therefore if somebody buys from an Am Haaretz, he has to give meiser again, or he's not sure whether it's again or not. So he has to give meiser. So if you buy the this very poor quality types of figs, then you are potter from giving meiser, because it's such cheap stuff. The Haaretz doesn't mind giving a meiser to the kohen. It's not a big loss if he'll give away 10-20%. Chutz min had jupra, except from the jupra. Jupra is must be better quality. My jupra, what's jupra? Omer Ula says ilan is a tree. He said you peres beshana. It's probably also a fig tree, but it gives twice. It produces twice a year, and it produces fruits twice a year. So if this type of fig which is produced twice a year, so that must be a better quality, even though it still belongs to the shisin, but it's probably a better quality of shisin. That's the way I understand from Rashi, that it's a better quality of shisin, and therefore the Am Haaretz will be less willing to give meiser for that, and therefore you have to, somebody buys it has to give meiser. You can't rely on the meiser at Am Haaretz. Rabbi ben Elazar said, Omar Rabbi ben Elazar, you parts of ponim hoya loyla Adam Rishon had two faces. He had the one in the front, the one in the back. Shneimrat says the pasuk, ocher v'kedem tzartoni, to make the shape, the shape of the human, the face, the shape. So it was ocher is at the back, kedem and in the front. So there was a back and the front. So there was one shape in the front, another shape was in the back. Okay, that's what. So again, you see the lotion of due as two. Okay, the Gemara is going to discuss a little bit more this concept of Adam Rishon, what is that was the Zachar and the Nekeva created together. The Ksiv, it says, "Vayivan Hashem Satzei." When Hashem made Chava, so the Rebbe took a stella, and then Vayivan Hashem they put the Adam Rishon to sleep, and he took out a tzela from him, and he built the tzela, and that turned into Chava, and he gave it to Adam Rishon. So Vayivan Hashem Satzei, so Rabbi Shmuel, Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel, Chadam, one says parts, one says that this tzela was a part. It was already a shape of a woman. Yeah. The Chadam, as one says, Zona, that it was a tail, and it was a tail, so there was a bit of a chunk of flesh there, and that had to be built. There was no parts of a shape of the nekeva. It's just of Chava, but so it's a tail. So now the Gemara is going to ask a number of questions against the person who says that it was two faces. So, against the person that says it was a tail. There's going to be a few questions which support the person who says there were two faces. So, the Gemara asks a question, that's fine according to when the person says parts of there was two faces. That there's a back and the front. The tzura, the face, the shape wasn't made in the back and the front. Of the one that says the whole thing which was that was an extra tail, and from that Chava was created. My what's because it seems like that Tzartani is referring to the very original surah when it was created. That's what it seems. And the original surah was a person, and there was no other. Yeah. So what's the Ochav Kedem? So Gemara says No, it's Ochav Kedem is not referring to tzuras. It's talking. It says it is. Ocher means in the last, and you're the first. You're the last and the first. So Ocher is not referring to the back and the front, but last and first. The Adam is in the last in the Ma'aseh Bereishis, and sorry, Ocher l'Ma'aseh Bereishis. He's the last of Ma'aseh Bereishis, and because the create, I will soon see in the Gemara, the kedem leperonis. But even though he's Ocher, but his kedem first. When it comes to punishment, the Adam is first. Okay, the human being is first. So the Gemara says, that we can understand. It says it was the last, the Ocher is referring to the last of created. That we understand, because he was only created at Shabbos, all the whole rest of the creation was created before, so he's last. Where do we find that the person gets punished before others? There's an element if you say because by the klola, so there we would see the other way around. The first we see that first the snake was cursed, and then Chava, and in the end Adam. So therefore, when it says that he was the first to punishment, is referring to the map. The Steve, it says, and the all existence which is on the face of the earth was wiped out. May Adam bad behema. So it says, may Adam bad behema. So therefore, Adam is first, because the first creatures which were wiped out was the human beings, and only then the behemoths died. Okay. Now we're going to a few more questions. It means or rayas to support the opinion of that says it's two parts. So if you're in a question on the one that says it's on. Parts of it says Vayitzer. Vayitzer is two yuds there, train yudin. So why the Vayitzer? Because there's two creations. There's There's Zachar and Nekeva. So creation. There was only a tail. My Vayitzer. What's Vayitzer? Because again, Vayitzer means the original creation, not what was done later. That's the understanding. So the Gemara answers, the Reb Shimon Pazi says, I think it's a drush. It's like a drusha. The extra yud is to tell you there's two things over here. When the person was created is oili miyitzri. that the person is always going to have tsar. Is going to have tsar either from his yetzer hara, that he wants to do things and is all about to. The Eibush told him not to do it, not allowed to do it, and he wants to. So it's tsar. He has to control himself. Or if he's going to listen to his desires, so then he's going to get punished from the one who created him. So that's when Hashem is created. But Yitzer is a two yuds that to give a remez that you always there's always going to be this this tsar either from this. There's no escaping tsar. Either again another question. The person says it was a zona of bish, and the man omer parto. It's good for the according to the person says it's parts of Heinrich. It says zochen kev brom. We created zochen kev. El man omer zona my zochen kev brom. How can you say zochen brom? But zochen kev brom, the original creation. Again, stressing that it seems that these psukim understood that it means the original creation at the beginning. So why does it say zochen kev brom? There was created the Zohar and later from the Zohar he made it in a cave. So Gemara says the Babo. That's a quote that yeah. That the pshat is like Rabbi. Well, what's Rabbi? The Rabbi or Rami, he asked the question. It says Zohar gave Abraham that he created Zohar and Kevus. Abraham, the plural. The creation was the plural creation. Why? Because he created the Zohar and then a Kevus. And it says, it says it's the singular, so it was one thing was created, not and how does he answer it? He says, the machshava was to create two. But in the end, only one was created. So the Peil Mamish, there was only one creation. That was Adam, and then she was that was with the Zonot. And but when it says Bram, that means the Machshav. The original Machshav was to create the Machshava. The intention was right in the beginning that it should be two created. Another question on the opinion of Zonot, Bishlam and other parts of Heinrich. That's so we understand what it says. He Yet he cut. He decided the Abishur had to replace and put meat over there. That means instead of before there was a partsov, then instead of the partsov, you had to put something else, a different shape, just a shape of meat. Yeah. El mando omar zonov. It says mavi is gebostach. So what do you have to put there? You just took off a piece and then you have to put anything there. So he says, when answers, that the cut, I guess you have put a bit of butter over there to that the cut should not be an open wound. There should be the skin or whatever it is that's necessary to make the place of the cut. Or maybe that also had to be a certain change. Maybe that's the pshat. The mokim chtach, the Eibishter made it that the mokim chtach is not so recognizable. It looks like a continuation to the rest. You have to make some sort of change over there that it shouldn't look like a piece has been cut off. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to ask the other way around, which the kasha on the one there's two parts of bish on the man the person that says zono, so it's good. Heinrich Siva Yiven says, but you had to build it because it was just a zona. We had to change it, transform it into the tzura. El man over parts but if the content was a parts so it's all built. You just had to cut, and then they have to build it. Iva Yiven. What do you have to build? You just separated it, and then you had the nekeva. So he says, like Reb Shimon ben Nasya. The pshat like Reb Shimon ben Nasya. Reb Shimon ben Nasya, Yiven Hashem came and said Seilo. It says how does he explain what it means by Yiven? He built it Seilo. It says Melamed Shekila Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Chava V'Yivia Adam Rishon. He plaited the hair and made the hair all nice and plaited and whatever done up and brought it like this to Adam Rishon. And how does that fit in Vayiven? Because she came to Krochayam in the port city, in the ports by the sea, in those cities, Kayim Vikliyosa, B'niyos, called Kliyo, making the what's it called, making the plats, they call it B'niyo. So that's b'niya according to that, the way they speak there. So therefore, that's the pshat by Yevon, that he made all look say to look good with having it all platted and everything. Another pshat by Yevon Omer Rabbi Chizda, Amr Masechta. Rabbi Chizda says, some say this in the Braysim, Lamed Shebona Hakadosh Baruch Hu LeChava Kebinyan Oitzer. He built Chava, so he built Chava Kebinyan Oitzer. He built Chava like an Oitzer. Ma Oitzer zeh Rochav Milmata the Kotzer Milmaila. Just like when you have a Oitzer, when you store things, and you make a building to store things, so the buildings where you store grain and all these type of things. So apparently those types of buildings, you make them narrower above and broader at the bottom, because you can't fill it up. The pressure of the grains or as they go higher is too much. So therefore you make it narrower, and so that it shouldn't. If it's too full, so the top parts will sort of try and fall to the sides, and they will the pressure, there'll be pressure to the sides, and it'll break down the oitzer. It'll be too much, and so therefore the oitzer you make it narrower at the top, and that's a good way of constructing. So just like this oitzer zracham umata is brought underneath the kotzer milmaila kedei lekabel es haperes, in order to be able to receive the fruits, is af ha'isham. The same thing also, a lady, she's wider underneath and narrower on top, because she's going to carry the vlad. So therefore, the base has to be wider. I'm just thinking right now. It seems to me that this davar acher only fits in with the opinion. It was made from a tail, not patzufin. Speaking of Yom Satzela, that he made the tzela, it fits in with the opinion of the tail. Anyway, okay. The pasuk says, he brought it to the person, to Adam Rishon. So also the pasuk says, why is it? What's it stressing? The pasuk would saying, Adam, Melamed teaches Shushvinus Adam Rishon. He behaved like Shushvin. That means he's helping the marriage. It's Shushvin, those who help the marriage. So and the Rashi explains that the Eibishter was. He helped in preparing the Suda for the chuppah between Adam and Chava. That's what Rashi says. The Eibishter was misasik in helping pray the Suda. And so he did Shushvinis for Adam Rishon. Bekan, the Godel, Shiyasa, even a big person, whoever choshev you are, it's not beyond your importance that you should Shiyasa Shushvinis the cotton, that you should be misasik and help out the marriage of a cotton, somebody who's a lower level than him. You shouldn't feel bad about it. I think Morris just continues. Parts of the Banuk says there's parts of that it was the Zocha and the Keva that was there already. It was all created as one. Hamanai Sagebresha. Which one's the one that walked ahead? The story is the Zocha Sagebresha. The Zocha went ahead. The Tanya we learned, a person shouldn't go b'derech, he shouldn't go in the way behind the lady. Afilu he ishta, even if she's a wife. So even if she's a wife, he should go first, and the lady and the wife behind. Then the rest of this bride is referring to a regular lady, not his wife. This Damal ala Gesher, he happens to meet her on a bridge like this. So he shall skele, so mitzdodin. So it happens in the bridge. He should sort of go to the side and not be behind her. And it says somebody goes behind the isha in a river. The river, they have to pick up the clothes a bit. It shouldn't get wet in the river, and so therefore the problem of Re'iyah, he's seeing some of the gilui of the isha. Doesn't have a chelik elam haba. I'll just do another piece. Rabbi, we learned somebody who counts money for a lady and is giving the money from his hand to her hand, and or from her hand to his hand, and is counting the money, and takes time to count the money, and he does that. She's stuck. He has in mind that to see her how she looks like. I feel even though he has done so many schusim and so many yonim and knows so much Torah like Moshe Rabbeinu. Shekibul Torah Mar Sinai. Lo Yonakim and Ginush again. He won't be cleansed from the of the din of Genem. He won't be clean for the looking at the lady. All of Akosel Emer. That's what it says in the pasuk. Yad Lo Yonakira. Not. Was it that Yad Yad means even it's like Moshe Rabbeinu with the Eibishter from his hand gave the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Yad Yad, even like that, Lo Yanakira. He will not. Oh, sorry. Yad Yad. Somebody who's giving money from one hand to the other is giving. If somebody's giving money from one hand to the other, it's like so, and Lo Yanakira. He will not be cleansed if there's ra. And lo yanaka was he won't be cleansed. Medina shel genem, he won't be cleansed from the din of genem. So, right. I think we'll stop over here.